Hello, welcome to the Roach Crossing weekly general live stream, January 20th, 2022. Oh boy, what a week it has been. Seems we already have quite a few people here. That's great. um, I will bring up the recurring theme of the last couple of weeks of me being either tired or very busy and groaning about that. And I can assure you that this week will not be any different. So, with that being said, I will actually be working on some emails this week because I desperately need to do them. Hello, Alex. Hello, Alan. Uh, Alex, I see your email here. I got to get to it. So the last week has been, hello, Michael here, has been something. So Will was off for the holidays. Put some eye drops in because it's very dry. Again, off for the holidays, a little past New Year's. We sort of got back into the swing of things and got some orders. Hello, John Loach. And hello, Kai. Got back into the swing of things only to have that abruptly, I guess, curtailed by Will got COVID last week and subsequently gave it to me. And so, fortunately, it was probably, I didn't actually take a test to see if I tested positive. Just Will was here and was coughing and was like, oh, I might be getting sick or something. I don't know. And then he and his fiance got tested after he started feeling worse. And so then I got no. Will is my assistant. I guess technically, since the forms and stuff are all done, he is a contract worker for Roach Crossing. So he comes over and helps me do all the many things that constantly need to be done. So yeah. So then I got it, and I was actually, the symptoms were very mild. I got stuffy and there was one day where it was a mix of not having energy, but also um, just sort of being like, well, Will's not here. We're supposed to do this today, and I should just take the day to rest. So basically a lazy day for me. So, and it cleared up. I may sound a little bit congested, but for the most part, I'm back to normal. I had a lot of fluids, etc. So very mild symptoms, fortunately. So, so yeah, I will be it is incredible how when I'm on top of doing emails, how I groan to myself sometimes about how I don't have any emails to answer, how I wish I had some more emails to do, just because you get into this kind of groove of um, answering them, and you get the little dopamine hit when you see more emails pop up to uh, big sales or to people you were looking to get things from or good conversations, etc. And so, yeah, so it's then you go a couple days without answering them, and all of a sudden it's just like, oh my god. Uh, so I will actually be doing emails. And Alex, again, as I said, actually, Alex, while you're here, let me touch on the Jarapaltis situation. So I might actually have enough Jinka to send, or not Jinka, sorry, Masai Mara instead of Polonoi, if you're interested in those instead. I seem to have gotten a fair hatch of those. I don't want to jinx myself because I just saw maybe like 5 nymphs hanging out by the dog food and figured I had gotten a hatch there, and I don't want to screw myself and say that they're available. I will be checking them. I have to go through and do all the roach husbandry tomorrow or the following day, whenever I get around to it. I'll get into what I've been up to surely. But anyway, so what I'm wondering is Kim Wisman, who I've brought up a couple of times, was he gave me some bark that he had from old snake enclosures or something like that. I think it was really good quality elm or something like that. And so I sort of gave it to some species I thought would really appreciate it, like the Darapeltis and my Neostylopyga. And then with the Neostylopyga, I just started having these die-offs, and they weren't producing good ooths, and then they were eating the ooths. Excuse me, residual Rona. Um, so what I'm wondering is, the three containers I for sure used that bark in that Kim gave me were the two Darapeltis and then the Neostylopyga. And I had seen a couple of Pollinois nymphs that had hatched out, and that's why I said that I might be able to have them if I were to ship this upcoming week or whenever. And then I went to check, and I was expecting a flood of them, and I didn't find any. I found a couple that were like third or fourth instar, so the original nymphs that I located had apparently molted a couple times, but I didn't find any newly hatched ones. So I'm wondering if maybe I know Kim uses like proventamite and stuff with some of his reptiles and whatnot. I'm wondering if maybe some of the bark that he gave me had the proventamite or something on it, and that caused some sort of systemic issues. Now, the other side of this, though, is I did dig around in the Pollinois enclosure, which is how I found the handful of nymphs that had been growing. So that kind of discredits that idea. But there were, poking around, I found plenty of very large, well-formed, healthy ooths that were very plump, and I found at least like 4 or 5 of them that I was just like, there's no way this thing is infertile or anything, just look too perfect. So I'm wondering if maybe I just got a quick initial hatch from when I watered a little bit extra, and now I dump more water in. If I'm going to get a large hatch very soon, according to reports about Darapeltis, they tend to hatch out in stupidly large numbers in the beginning of the rainy season or the monsoons, and in the parts of Africa that they occur. So much to the point that the newborn nymphs invading houses they're very pesky to some folks. So and using flake soil and roach bins, I see no reason why not. Some roaches should be fed flake soil like Podestia. So, but it couldn't hurt as an additive to other species. Hello, Victor. So anyways, so I need to check on the Masai Mara too, and my Neostylopyga colony has completely collapsed, unfortunately, and I don't know why. And maybe it's the bark situation. So I'm gonna get some more from Junior. I think he has an 8 count of them or something put aside for me. So, um, so yeah, that's kind of what's up with the Darapeltis. And I haven't had trouble with the Pollinois in the last couple of years. Or I think maybe last November was when I received a mail or something from Ty Randall. And for a bunch of females he had sent prior. And oh, no, I think he sent me like 15 nymphs, and 14 were females and 1 was male. So, and then I had a good number of them mature and be fine over the summer, and plenty of them hatch and laying ooths and whatnot into the fall. So maybe I'm just being impatient, and I should just keep my mouth shut until there's a flood of nymphs like in the Hemipixossera bin over there. John, I keeping them generally how I keep a lot of my other bladdids like Uricotis, where it's just a couple inches of the roach substrate mixture and a bunch of very high quality bark for laying ooths on, and apparently it wasn't quality enough, or something was wrong with it, or something else was going on. But yeah, people, they were quite common up until a couple of years ago. I'm not sure what the deal is, because when I first had them, they did exceptionally well. and then I had, die offs eventually, whatever. I can't help but wonder if maybe another thing was I did give them heat these last couple times around, and I'm not really sure if it made a difference or not. But I also figure maybe they were moisture sensitive, so I actually, in a last ditch effort when the adults were dying off, was I actually put a deli cup with a bunch of rocks in it and then filled it with water so that they could crawl in and drink directly constantly if they wanted to. It didn't seem to make a difference. So I don't know. They are they the newest of the strains? The ones that I have came from. I go let him outside if he really wants to go out. They came from Island Reptiles, circa late 2019, early 2020. So I've had them going since then, and um, they would have their sort of population increase over the winter and then decrease in the summer, but that might have been due to husbandry uh, consistency during those times. But I've been very consistent with them lately, so figuring out what the heck's going on is the problem. And Island Reptiles no longer keeps them, so that might make Junior the only person with a good, reliable colony right now, which is unfortunate. It's like the Uricotis opaca situation where uh, they did very well at my parents' house, and I had a lot of the different opacas. And then, after a certain point, you just couldn't get them to reproduce. So, actually, speaking of the opacas, I do have. Trying to think, is there anything else that could have been weird or off about that? More leaf litter for the opacas? I really don't know. And actually, I had produced a group of them and sent a couple off to Ty Randall last year in a trade, thinking and hoping that he would um, do well with them, or that just change of scenery or different perspective might be able to get some babies out of them. And he ended up sending me his last pair back because I had one young female and he wasn't doing well with them. It's just don't know what the deal is. Is it a Lee effect or something or whatever? I'm half wondering, and I will do this if I get my hands on the opaca again. And maybe it might be too late for me to try it with the ones that I still have, although that one female is still very healthy. Actually, I think both the females are still alive and healthy. So maybe I'll shut my mouth and go do this when I go back downstairs to do Roach and Misk work tonight. But I might put them in a setup with a heat lamp on them, because I do remember them getting they were in the throw from the heat lamp I used to have at my parents' house. And, I pointed part of it at there, and they got a good deal of it. So maybe it was having that very high temperature or the combined ventilation. Who knows? I failed with my first stock. I got a newer strain from Madagascar, I believe it is, and they have done fantastically. Uh, John, are you in the U.S.? If you if you are, I would love to get some from you if they're doing fantastic, as well to hear some of your husbandry notes. Just gonna backtrack a bit here. Yeah, no worries, Joshua, on the COVID thing. It seems like we've hit the breaking point, and everybody's getting Omicron, so it was inevitable. And Alex, your dog is noisier than mine. Yeah, he's they're known for being quite loud dogs to scare off the wolves and whatnot. But yeah, he can be quite noisy when he wants to. He's quiet most of the time, but when he speaks up, he's very loud. So yeah, that's hello, some eggs. Talking of hydration, I find they drink often. Misting starts off them drinking from settled droplets every other day. Another thing I've noticed, they thrive much better if kept fairly crowded. See, mine were crowded. I was keeping mine fairly crowded. They get to pretty high population densities, and they seem to not do very. Which is why I'm also suspicious about the bark situation. And I do go around and spray everything this time of year once every like day to 3 days because it's so dry. So I have to go downstairs with a big jumbo sprayer thing and hose down every container to keep them nice and hydrated. Um, Imanus that is Kai actually, Alex, user at Imanus. And John, that's unfortunate. Although I do know a few folks who are less concerned about the pond between us, so it may be worth shooting me an email, getting in touch with them. They may be interested in talking to you about your rhombifolia, your new line. Although Jihu, who has popped in here a handful of times, currently works in Hawaii, and he's found rhombifolia on like the walls of a Walmart. And then he went back to try and collect some, and couldn't find any. It's a poor time of year for him to. He can actually send stuff to the U.S. Or to the continental U.S. since he's Hawaii without issues. So we're basically just sort of waiting for the seasons to change and the weather to improve to get some things that he's been collecting and holding on to. Yeah, I would. I'm always interested to see people's bin designs. I feel like I'm coalescing on my final enclosure styles because I haven't had any issues with escapes in a long time, and that's the primary thing. And I've grown very fond of my critter keeper faunariums and glass tanks. It's probably going to be that way for me into the future, except for some things I want to mass produce, which will probably go in traditional totes, but there'll be things that can that will tolerate that. Is that it's probably tearing up a cardboard box. Oh boy. So before I sort of shift my gaze over to some emails, and I'll be back and forth between the chat to respond to some discussions. Basically, what's been taking up the bulk of my time currently has been redoing all the basically all of the isopod bins. So I like my nice conformity, and I was going with these. They're called faunariums, as I learned the hard way. Going with these faunariums, and then I called them critter keepers, and accidentally somebody ordered the medium. The person who I was sourcing them through wholesale ordered the medium critter keepers, which have the multicolored lids and the plastics of a different quality. And so I ended up with a bunch of critter keepers. They are expensive, but if you get them wholesale, and if you do as I've been doing, which is also on top of the wholesale pricing, I've been trading inventory for them. So I give them isopods and roaches and whatnot, and so it's it's very convenient for me to be able to do this. So anyways, so now I have all the critter keepers are now all the isopod ones at least are the multicolored tutti frutti lids, and it was annoying at first, and I think my biggest grievance is that the lids fit more tightly on the critter keepers, which would normally be a great thing. But because I put this sort of frost cloth material between the lid and the container, it makes it more difficult to snap the lids on to a fresh container than it does with these other ones. There's like a double sort of hinge thingy. So John Loach says, on the point of Derapeltis, all the species I have actually the same as you described. Females appear to mature, breed, and drop loose very regularly, and then die within maybe some period of time. Yeah, I remember being at a point where the colony was much less cyclical than it is currently behaving. that was back in the olden Roach days for me, where I could easily do complete maintenance on everything once a week and be done with it. And so this is it's a much different world nowadays with all the stuff, and I cannot do that. But the little extra care definitely keeps some more sensitive things alive longer, and then you get a more staggered and evenly mixed colony. So, but I'm okay with this. I might even pull a couple when they get to like third instar to raise in a colder part of the bug room or the house, so that I can stagger them. So when they'll be maturing when the other adults are dying off or something like that. It's not a huge deal for me, but um, John, do you happen to keep Darylpeltis erythrocephala? It's been one of those species that has popped up in Europe and in Japan a couple of times, and once in the United States, but I don't see consistently available. And I have honestly wanted that species since I basically started keeping roaches. It might even be in the old All Pet Roach book listed, but I remember it would pop up on inventories a couple of times. John, I know some people who may be very interested in receiving some erythrocephala if we get in touch about that. So, but that's exciting. Uh, I would love to one day see 3 Darylpeltis consistently in culture in the United States, or any more of them. They're very neat roaches. I mean, we need more blattids that are on the unique side. So let's see, anything else. Speaking of unique blattids, before I go back to the isopod discussion really quick, Alan, if you're still around, there's a bunch of Paraplaneta brunea boots, and they look super happy. Braden says, Kyle, do you keep hygrometers in some tanks? Curious what your low, medium, high humidity recommendations equate to in percentage roughly. I have one hygrometer in the basement, aka the bug room. And I like it when it's 40 to 55% humidity. What would you like? I'm busy. I know. You want something. You probably want to play or you want treats, but you cannot have those right now. I know. So 40 to 55% is when I can just dump water in all willy-nilly and not have to worry about it. Hey. No. So I like that. I like being able to, it's easier for me to just bombard enclosures with water than it is to hey, sit, good boy, than it is to micromanage the humidity and whatnot. So I usually in the summertime it's 60 to 70+%, and that's kind of not preferable for me, because then if things still need to drink, even though the air humidity is higher, they don't need to drink as much, but they still need to. But it's so easy to overwater during the summertime. So if I can keep a relative humidity of 40 to 55%, and then just relatively constantly water, works a lot better for me. A lot of things seem to like those conditions better. And if a colony's in healthy conditions, then they do just fine like that. So, Michael Hare, kind of an off-topic question, but could you speak to your experiences with keeping Vanonis? Any tips and tricks with their care? I'm looking to possibly getting into harvestmen. So Alan also has a good amount of experience with harvestmen. I currently have Vanonis ornatus from wherever Alan collected them. I think they're Ocala on your last Florida trip. And Vanoni Sei from Bryceville. And Sinertoides quadraspinosa from near Miami. And my approach is a bit different than Alan's. I also have some unidentified ones from Bryceville that I was sent a couple of weeks ago that I've dumped into an enclosure with a bunch of micro food and just hoping that they will do something. Because we don't know what the Coral Gables thinks is where the Sinusoides quadrispinosa are from. So my approach is different than Alan's. Alan used a lot of fish flakes and uh, dwarf purple isopods and stuff like that, which works for me because I am lazy and I like to get large numbers of things and very immediate results. I usually flood the container with fruit flies and then put something in that the fruit flies can eat, like a piece of apple or something. And the harvestmen may or may not predate on living fruit flies. I don't know if we've seen them actually pick up a live one and eat it. But what I think happens if that's not the case is when the fruit flies begin to die because they don't have the longest lifespans, it just creates a bunch of little morsels of protein all over the place. And although the harvestmen will eat just about anything, including the fish flakes and whatnot, the little morsels of protein are very appealing both to them and to the microfauna in the enclosure. And so you get, very consistent springtail and isopods if they can persist in terms of the dwarf purples going at the enclosure. And that's a lot easier for me because things like the Venoni sei with these conditions for me, I can, started colonies or had to move adults into new containers for various reasons. And I'll look in there and like uh, some small amount of time and be like, there's like double the amount of adults in here. It's kind of crazy how quickly they can grow under certain conditions. So that's how I keep the Venoni sei, Venonis ornatus, and the Sinusoides. And for these smaller species now, or this other species, I'm going to see some eggs. That might be the most charged thing that you have ever said in the chat. Daddy long legs are boring. Uh, does it help to know that all the species we're talking about right now actually is it fluoresce under black light? So much like how scorpions will have that very beautiful like a cyan turquoise color, the Venonis will all fluoresce like that, but only their little like bandings and other parts of their body. So it's very much so like a 90s blacklight poster looking sort of thing going on. And I find that very cool. So, and the Sinusoides are kind of like Venonis on steroids, and we all thought that they were Venonis ornatus. So we thought a lot of things about harvestmen that were not correct with respect to identities and whatnot. So, but the Sinusoides are quite large and they're dimorphic too. So they're more similar to some of those South American species that people obsess over. So I think they're cool. I like the idea of communal containers of arachnids, especially something like that. And they're handleable and relatively low maintenance, depending on how you keep them, what your goals are. So I like them. It's easier to raise a communal of Venonis than it is to keep a bunch of spiders and then have to put them together to mate and all that other stuff. You keep Arcoblet, you have bad judgment on what is boring or not. Says the person who loves Blabberus. Look, I like Blabberus. Hey. Sit. But and I love Blabberus localities, but I wouldn't be a fanatic about them as you are in going to the extents that you do to idolize them in various art forms and whatnot. Well, some eggs are the day long eggs I've seen the woods even native in North America. I think the very common ones, especially the further north you go, are not native here. And I have accidentally raised them a couple of times. I'm pretty easy. I haven't actually gotten them to cycle through. It was more eggs that I accidentally brought in on soil or something, hatched, and then they grew up scavenging in the enclosure. I mean, honestly, it would be pretty cool to have a big tank full of the those larger harvestman species. Oh, there are some very pretty ones also from like Texas and whatnot. I can't remember what the one species is called. Alan probably does, but it's like black, white, and orange. So that's a very cool species. And then there's the Umasasoma. It might be a Umasasoma species, actually. I like the Umasasomas because of how chunky they are and how small their legs are relative to their bodies. And you have some communal cellar spiders or something, says Braden. Yes, I do. And I got a gush of babies, and not really a gush, more like a squirt of babies when I first set them up. And not much else has happened with respect to reproduction out of them, and the babies are not growing very quickly either. And I bombard that container with food. They have like a live-in colony of Drosophila hydae. And so, wondering what the deal is there. I mean, in the wild, there were so many of them in a very small area, and this is definitely more than enough room for them. They're at a lower density there than they were in the wild, so maybe they're just slow like that. I mean, it would make sense for them not to breed like rabbits and overconsume whatever resources they have. Um, so I may set them up in a larger enclosure and see if I can get better production out of them. I'm not too concerned. They're all very healthy looking. And of course, I did get that handful of babies that popped up. But yeah, I would have expected them to take off a bit faster than they have. But oh well. Uh, Maybe it's on the to do list. There's many things on the to do list. Michael Harris says there is a species of European harvestmen that are not native, of course, but according to iNaturalist, there are a few native species here in the Northeast. Yeah, and Venoni Sei range is pretty far north too. I wouldn't be surprised to find them in Michigan. So I mean, I'm sure there's a good number of native ones, but I would think most of the ones that are encountered even in natural areas are probably not native. So kind of like with isopods too. So let's see what else we got going on. Yeah, with the isopod container situation thing, I'm just now getting to the last maybe like dozen colonies. And the way that I do it too is not very conducive to gratification in the sense that I front loaded it with, setting up a lot of species level bins. So, things that like Armadillidium, uh, Corserium, and CF Palassii, and all that stuff. So things that I could just grab all individuals indiscriminately out of the original bin and throw them into the new colony. And so that goes relatively quickly. But then when I get into the old project bins and I have to pick things down to like a pair, and I have to go through this rather desolate bin and find the 12 remaining medium sized individuals and then grab the best out of those, the best pair or whatever, and put them in the new setup. That takes a bit longer. So that's what I'm left on now, is going through a lot of those old project bins and grabbing the best ofs and putting them in the new containers, and then hoping that the pair procreates and the project persists. But there's a lot of good. There's a ton of good stuff. I did lose a lot of my directly lava derived projects, or at least I guess there was the solid grays, which I'm one of those people who'd be excited about those. I know most people probably wouldn't. I lost those, and the solid or nearly solid oranges that are multi-gene from lavas I lost. But I just figured, whatever. I'll just, the main lava colony is fine, so I'll just grab individuals out of there at some point, and then just restart those projects. But other things are much further along. A lot of the extensive Porcelio scaber crosses. I did a blog post. Oh, I need to do more blog posts too. Oh, great. I did a I gotta change the site feature to sort for blog posts. Blah blah blah. So I have that. I have that very long running project. Maybe I talked about this last time. It's been like 2 weeks, so maybe I've touched on it within this amount of time. But I have that very long. I have many long running lines that as a general rule, unless I absolutely have to, and metaphorically have a gun to my head, I will not add stock to my colonies because I know how things go when things leave my collection or after they've been imported from the original stock and are distributed, and everything just gets screwed up, especially isopods. It's awful, is what it is. So, um, so some of these lines I've had going forever, like the Spanish oranges from Orin, uh, directly from him, and his calicos, which I had going and now I have to reacquire from him, uh, or things like the Klugii from Montenegro, which, as I understand now, everybody's Dubrovniks and Montenegros and whatever that other locality that was being distributed about 3-4 years ago. Everybody's mixed them all up. Well, the big isopod vendors don't give a crap about if they're selling true to name stock, etc. So, I hold on to those, like clutch them and hold them quite dearly. So I have that line of the hello Russian bot. At least it counts for viewership, I guess. So I have that old line of that I've been refining for a very long time now of Porcelio Scabe or Scorpio that I had originally used from. I put some calls from this project where I was crossing Orin's calico stock with North American wild caught red calicos, and I was trying to tease the non-sex linked calico phenotype out of that. And at some point, I threw them in with a scorpion. I think it might have been a Tidius species, Stigmurus or something. And eventually, in that container, all the Tidius died or whatever, and the isopods were left, and I ended up with the ones that remained ended up with a very nice male and female calico phenotypes. And so I Ngo was better, for bots. Anyway, so I ended up with the nice bisexual calico line from the old Scorpion container, and so I named it Scorpio. And I've just been really perfecting that line over the years. And having seen a couple of other calico lines, they're don't want to toot my own horn too much, but they are the most consistent and reliable bisexual calico stock, at least in the United States. I don't pay attention to what goes on in Europe until it comes stateside, really. So, anyways, and I can say I've made good progress on that line because I try not to get rid of old stock from projects. I'll have them going as like a stock bin in case I screw up and have to re-isolate something, or in case something else cool pops up and I want to isolate it. So I have the original Scorpio stock that it was untouched that I just selected from, and they still have males that are very low expression calico versus the current state of the line. All the males are high expression, so it's nice to be able to have a metric to compare progress with. So anyway, so crossing that into they're pulling some things out of that, made that Porcello Scape or Stardust, which was more of a yellow flecking calico, and then crossing that to lava and created these very, very, very cool tricolor phenotypes that are yellow calicos with red and orange markings, and then some of the original gray flecking still on them. And so that appears to be proved out as of the babies that I was checking on yesterday. And I think I'm just going to let them enumerate. I would really like to have on the order of hundreds of those before releasing them. And of course, mixing them with single gene mutations will provide some interesting things, I'm sure, like the that one gene that causes sort of an overall hypo look to Scaber. In Europe, I think they call it the ghost, which is completely different than the the mess that is called ghost and whatnot in the United States. So I think mixing that in eventually will be fruitful. But I'm really hoping they'll be the next big thing, considering how colorful they are. And I mean, it's better color selection than you see on half of those Cubaris that are coming in now, like the Platin Tongue Songs or whatever, and Dream, where they took the pictures from just the right camera angle to catch the little glint of shininess that they have, and then you look at the isopod in real life, and it's just consistently brown. So yeah, that's basically what I've been flailing through, is picking stuff for projects and just sort of getting it set up to tolerate as much neglect and low maintenance as possible, which has worked well in the past with some of the trial setups. So every container I have to make the gasket, the lid, and multiple layers of substrate and all that stuff. And it's a lot of infrastructure work, which is where all the time is. It's in the infrastructure instead of the actual care. They don't want to have to go around adding leaves and food and stuff to all the enclosures. Just throw stuff in and then check on them every couple of weeks or months or whatever. See anything else coming up of importance to bring up? Anybody else notice an increase in the number of like spam emails? Like I think now I get maybe 3, 4 spam emails a day about search engine optimization and miscellaneous website work and stuff like that. So I thought that was interesting. Might be just a sign of the times moving to a lot of online sales for things. Trying to think of what else. Projects. I don't have too many projects to bring up other than all the miscellaneous isopod things, considering I've been talking about a lot of stuff that's been going on. Actually had less spam emails myself, says Derico. Yeah, I don't know. Some of these projects are coming to fruition. I can talk about the Cotinus, I guess. Cotinus mutabilis, I was about to deconstruct the enclosure because I was just like, okay, it's January. Those things have been in there since September, and I haven't seen any adults at close, blah, blah, blah. I'm done trying. And I went to check on them because the last time I did, I found a single web spinner, and I thought, be nice if those web spinners that accidentally desiccated on the way home were still present in this culture that I set up that was not meant to be a web spinner culture. And so I checked on them the other day because I was, I scratched the surface to see if any of the Cotinus were emerging or blah, 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 and found that I seem to have at least 2 web spinners in there, which means there's probably more web spinners than that. Must have been one that snuck in with the Cotinus soil from when I collected them out of the compost in Bylis, Arizona. And so that bin is now a little Bylis now, because there's the web spinners. There's the Siphodoris or whatever species of springtail that's very similar to the white ants. It may very well be the white ants in there. There's a bunch of little orangish beetles that it's beyond my abilities and desires to identify them right now, but I know a couple of people who could identify them if I sent them pictures. So, and a bunch of little darklings that TJ identified as a Blapstinus species. Hello, Hylas. It's good to see you again. It seems it's been a while, but it's great to have you here now. Uh, you're in a very low energy live stream today because I'm currently in the middle of redoing all my isopod bins and bemoaning all these emails I need to catch up on. So, but I'm currently trying to figure out what the genus is for these darklings that are in this Blapstinus. Yeah. And it really feels like there's a lot more Blapstinus in that container than I put in. So I have a feeling that they're breeding in there. So it's this little Bylus. I kind of like that. It's a little snapshot of Will and I's experience of that compost heap. So then as I was saying, I went into that bin expecting to want to dismantle it and be done with this whole quest to breed the Cotinus mutabilis communally and easily. And I pulled the tank out. I looked around the sides and said, "Oh, there's nothing here." And then at the back of the tank, the back side of the tank, there are several pupal cells that are just barely visible through the glass. And it appears the Cotinus are either pupae that are very close to eclosing because they have the green color, or they're adults that already eclosed and are sitting in the pupal cells waiting for something. So I was like, okay, you just need to be patient. Not everything can be like roaches, where you're either waiting for a bunch of eggs to hatch or a bunch of adults to mature, and you can physically see them. Some things you just need to sit on your hands and just be patient for. And I just like that about beetles, which is why I also like all the seed needs, is because of how instant gratification-y they are compared to a lot of other beetles. Some eggs, web spinners are in their own order, right? Yes, they are. And John, I just realized you sent something earlier. I'll get to it in a second. Some eggs, yeah, they're in their own order. Embioptera, I believe, Embioptera, depending on how fancy or not fancy, or who you talk to about how to pronounce insect orders. This is Embioptera, and there's, I think, at least 2 or 3 species in the U.S. One is introduced in a lot of subtropical, warmer, temperate places like the Southwest and California and Florida. And I believe that's the one that I have. Alan has collected the native one from Texas, and I think his all died, and he has to go collect more. Somebody has to go collect more, but they're more of a reddish color. But they're really cool. They're really, really, really cool insects, and it's neat to watch them use their little I think it's the glands on their tarsi or something like that, and to watch them sort of do like a bricklayer and they'll like smooth out the silk and stuff like that. So yeah, they're really cool insects, and so that's why I was bummed that I kind of lost the opportunity to work with them when the glob of them I manually picked out of the compost desiccated. But now I have a second chance, and I don't have to go back there ever again if I don't want to, because I have all these here. So John Loach on the Eurycotis opaca. What problems have you had? Here and in Europe, we've almost lost the Jaruco locality, although source seem to be much more successful. They just won't breed. Has been the problem a lot of people have. And it's kind of like the Hemithrisosauria vittata, where I feel like there's some little gimmick you have to do to get them to produce more consistently. And, I feel confident I can figure out again eventually, because I had such good colonies of both the Soroa and the Jaruco in the past. But, it's just a matter of getting enough stock somehow in the US to be able to propagate them or give them a good go. at propagating. So like with the Vitata, it's like, oh, I'm not going to lose that colony again. They're doing way too well. I have the husbandry down pat. I'm go manually turn off the heat lamps that are on the bottom rack here because I don't have a timer hooked up for them yet. So it's just about figuring out what that little key is to getting them to be more consistent. So, and I'm suspicious it may be a factor. It may be heat, because the times where I had saved my Soroa originally with a female that I threw in with my dwarf hisser colony, and they had a heat lamp pointed at them again, like with at my parents' house. So I'm wondering if or it could have been humidity too, because they were in a plastic tote which holds humidity, ambient humidity, better than a ventilated glass tank. So it could have been, and again, this is sort of the problem that I was having with the Neostylopyga too. So it could be one of those things that is a factor in this, in my opinion. But again, I need to get a good number of them again, and I have those Soroa that I'm hopefully going to be able to save. Again, since I have older individuals, kind of losing hope, but I will probably go and put that bin under proper heat element, with a top-down heat. It's currently getting bottom-up heat, but I think the top-down will be a little bit more their speed. So John Loach says, I messaged you on Facebook about the Eustagasta buprestroides. Oh, yeah, we had talked about those. I sent a video link. I assume message went to your message request. Yeah, I don't often go on Facebook. I basically only go there to get in contact with people who may have something of interest available, and then I just get their number and text them anyways, because Facebook is a huge time drain. But I'll go on there and check it out, because yeah, I completely forgot about those. It's been again quite a month. I am looking forward to being done with all this isopod crap by the end of the month. Have a big shipping day coming up next Tuesday, and sort of getting that glob of orders out, since I didn't ship this week. I took time off because obviously Will and I were infectious, and also Will was not here, so more work and blah 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 blah. Helen says, "Tell us about your new arachnid acquisition." What arachnid acquisition, Alan? Because I'm not sure what you're referencing. Are you talking about the Phrynis white eye, maybe? So I have been questing for a couple months to get some confirmed Phrynis white eye, and I picked some up at the expo last month. And Alan, you were correct. She did have moldy eggs. So the female, or now we know it's a female, developed some mold on her underside, and I was like, this is weird. This is very weird. I thought it was entomophagus or arachnophagus at first, but then eventually she did cast off her this failed egg sac. So that gives me hope that she'll produce another one, and then I have baby Phrynis white eye, and that would put me in the best position, because then I can just captive raise a bunch myself and have them inbreed or slightly outbreed with other ones I pick up here and there. But there was another species. What did you say it was? Mazai or something of Phrynis, and Alan brought me up to speed on the fact that there are multiple different Phrynis being traded as white eye right now that are coming in with these imports. And so I was very cautious to purchase white eye from anywhere, because I wanted to make sure that I had, at least the stock that is white eye is probably all coming in from the same place, and then getting mixed up with the distributor, and then everything just being sent out as tailless whip spiders or whip scorpions or whatever. So I want to make sure at least I had the same species and they were all relatively similar phenotypes, so that I could attempt to keep them communally in the distant future. But my primary concern right now is acquiring a small group of them, getting them all in good physical health, and then attempting to do a large communal, as I've been doing with all the other whips that I have. And that reminds me, I need to check on the Damon tonight or tomorrow because they need another round of food for sure. So just something every day, every day. Um, and the one of the Chirinus too needs to be bombarded with fruit flies or something. Who knows if that thing molted or if it was pregnant? Oh, it'd be so cool if the little Chirinus acosta was pregnant. Oh, that'd be great. Be real pick me up. So let's see, any other things? I might. We're getting on the 1 hour mark, and I might actually call it pretty soon, which is what I said last time, and then I kept rambling for another hour. But I think this time I should really get back to and if they die, you'll see an angry Asian when you come to Alabama. Damon, that is, yeah. Um, they're probably fine. I still water them. It's just having the food. I mean, most of them were freshly molted to 3i when there were tons of fruit flies, so they should be okay. Some egg says I just googled Frynus, and apparently there's an Android game where you play as multicolored whip scorpions. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And what was the other twisted reveal that we found out? Will's thing is pseudoscorpions, and I guess that he found that he was concerned about his search engine optimization because apparently there is some fringe band or something called Pseudoscorpion or a song named Pseudoscorpion, and the band or whatever like samples child pornography, and it's very famous. This band called Pseudoscorpion is very famous for having this horrible content or whatever in their music. And so Will became slightly concerned because like he was popping up on like a Google search next to that band or whatever. So yeah, not surprised something else pops up other than whip scorpions proper. I feel like it's very easy to just call them whip spiders. I mean, it's sun spiders for sulfugids, or just call them sulfugids, or amblypygids is a bit of a mouthful for some reason. But like vinegaroon, a whip scorpion, it's more morphologically similar to a scorpion, and I know they're more uh, uh, phylogenetically related to the amblypygids. But it just if you're using common names, you might as well make them make more sense, I guess. Uh, John Loach says, "Have you seen the Armadillidium gestroi yellow? What do you think? A pretty awesome line breeding, I thought." I think I've seen a couple pictures of them, gestroi yellow, and I think I was impressed. Not seeing anything pop up on Google Images, which suggests to me that they're not very widespread yet. But I think I do recall seeing them, and they were uh, they seem to be very pretty. I mean, the thing with yellow lines in isopods is that it's a very common trait in a lot of them. So my eyes kind of glaze over a bit with some of the yellow morphs in isopods simply because a lot of even Armadillidium vulgare will get very nice high yellow and some good strains. But I remember them being very pretty, and of course they're large too, so that's a plus. So yeah, I would like to if you got a link to a picture or something like that. But I'm pretty sure somebody has showed them to me before. Uh, the other thing with the coloration is that it seems to be that concentration of yellow that I want to say is due to uric acid or something like that. I remember that being what I was told with spiders for some of the patches of coloration on their abdomen. I'm not sure if it applies to isopods, but and then there's some strains and species that have more of that deeper in the cuticle yellow coloration that's not quite as eye-catching, but it's more of a fuller color. That's been a focus of a couple of Vulgari lines of mine is to bring out that sort of deeper color. There was just a video on that pseudoscorpion topic from a big Spanish-speaking YouTube channel. Should die down. Pseudoscorpion is a good band name. Why they gotta waste it like that? Yeah, I don't want to have words put in my mouth. I'm pretty sure it was Let me look up Pseudoscorpion band. The most vile album of all time, The Mystery of Pseudoscorpion. Fascinating. Oh boy. I do love when there's these uh interesting coincidences. Like right around 20 late 27 no, late 2018, early 2019, there was a fringe push to have the term real isopod hours um manifested as like a far right or neo-Nazism uh, terminology or something like that. And it was just interesting that that sort of popped up and coincided with the beginning of the isopod industry. And I will never forget that, seeing a couple of the images of real isopod hours pop up on Facebook and then having to dive into what it meant. Um, so yeah, lots of interesting things. Let's hope that nobody tries to monopolize the cockroach or roach term. Although I feel like it's already been already infested the vernacular in a couple of different ways. So we're at the 1 hour and 1 minute mark, and I am feeling the deep calls to get back to finishing the isopod stuff and then actually sitting down and focusing the brain bits on the clearing the inbox. And tomorrow will again be, after isopod stuff is finished up tonight, tomorrow will probably be putting the lid on the emails and then doing roach husbandry solo, which is kind of a pain. It's a lot easier when I have Will because he can bring me the individual containers and then I can just check on them as is and then give them back to him to put back into their proper places. But instead, I'll have to grab the utility cart and go around with that. So, with that being said, thank you all for joining me for what has been our shortest live stream yet, I think. And hopefully see you all next week. I will get around to doing a giveaway within the next couple of weeks. The problem has been the weather, and the post service has been swamped and all wonky, and express boxes are taking 4 to 5 days to get to their destinations, which is insane, and all this stuff. And fortunately, I haven't had too many DOA issues because of the intensity that I pack things with, which is part of the reason why packing is such an ordeal. But I have had a couple of things, and some people have been switching to FedEx. The problem with FedEx for me is I shipped a couple of boxes through them in the fall, shipped 3 boxes, and they lost 2 of them, which is 2/3 in one shipping batch is ridiculous. I think USPS has lost 2 boxes in the last 12 years. I mean, they always reach their destination, just a matter of how long it takes. Because of the coronavirus or all this other miscellaneous supply chain stuff that's going on. So it'll be better on my conscience to be able to offer things to people for free and guaranteeing that they will be able to arrive completely safe and sound outside of the normal guarantees with all of my orders. So Alan says, real Air in the Vega time when Kyle goes to Arizona to collect Air in the Vegas. Yeah, I do like that acronym. We got RAT for the real Air in the Vega time. So with that being said, I'm going to get my nose back to the grind, and I will see everyone next week. May your cultures ever be bountiful, and stay warm and stay safe, everybody.